we did some work and we put together some phrases that we thought would be good for you to potentially implement on your next broadcast. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to read them live here, test them out.
And he buried that ball like it was going to testify against him.
I like that one. I like that one.
60% of the time, it works every time. He can move faster than Severus Snape confronted with shampoo.
Get the camera on Zane. Look at his reaction. This is our idea for if
Max Manthau
pulls off a really good play.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions, and loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next, for I am Purple Jesus.
This episode is powered by My DUPR by Timeline, the #1 doctor recommended supplement for longevity. To save 10% on your first order of My DUPR, go to timeline.com/thedink. That's TIMELINE.com/ all caps the dink. Enjoy the show. Wow.
You're never going to live that down. You know that, right?
I know. The good news is that I'm going to post this later. Mike Tomlin gave a thumbs up. He didn't give the wow, but it's apparently what we do in Pittsburgh. So I was pretty pleased with that last night.
But was it a double thumbs up?
It was only a single.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's not the full thing, of course.
You were telling me a tiny little bit about that, and you said that was like the 10 seconds that you were on the actual camera that entire day, and you gave the double thumbs up, and they caught you.
Yeah, it was a wild 2 great matches back to back, and I was fired up as I get. And they're like, "Hey, we're gonna throw you on," and I'm like, "Okay." And then I just, I'm an energetic dude, and there they are. So, let's do it.
Right.
Look at his screen.
Yeah. I mean, look what.
Oh, when he put up the thumbs up?
Yeah. Look at what double thumbs up do.
That's good stuff.
It's just the way the world works.
Yeah. All right. So, do you accept the moniker, the Voice of Pickleball? Are
Absolutely.
you in on that? All right.
Yeah.
You embrace that?
Yeah, why not?
What are your other roles within UPA? I feel like you wear infinity amount of hats, and I'm not exactly quite sure what you do, but I know a few things that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I try to do is, help with a lot of different areas. My background's in marketing, so I ran the brand marketing for big brands like Pizza Hut and Dr. Pepper, and those ideas I bring to the table, certainly. I think understanding the way sports, and specifically our sport, works from organizing events and how to bring those things to life is certainly part of my background and my passion. And then I think I'm just another voice to help with, as you mentioned, the myriad of things as our sport continues to evolve that I have seen both in my business career and then obviously playing the sport at a high level and then seeing it grow literally not from its infancy going to Bainbridge Island, but from when our sport became part of the national conscience. I've been around in some way, shape, or form. So I've seen it, and then I think I've been connected to most of the people in the industry as well. And if I can ever connect the dots to make something better or help our sport grow, I'm all for it every time.
Cool. All right. Well, given all that, you're debatably more in the know than anybody else in the sport. So we want to start off with just getting some reactions to some hot topics within pickleball, if that sounds good to you.
Okay.
All right, cool. I'm going to present a video here really quickly.
I like it when I'm surprised by this stuff too.
And basically just want you to react to this clip, which is from a previous podcast.
We reduce the men's paddles, for instance, to make us theoretically exactly equivalent on average to the women's game, it would adapt to look very similar. We'd have a lot more hands paddles. If we were all using wooden paddles, we'd have hands paddles all the time, right? But if we go to the reverse spectrum of that, if we all use tennis rackets, you will have none of those, right? And that's really my argument for increasing the power too much. But then on the flip side of that, you say, but you can do cooler stuff with the ball. You can hit it harder. That looks really cool. And I don't disagree with you. There is something there. You don't want a wooden paddle. You don't want a tennis racket. It's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. My take is generally like, I think that you can incentivize speed ups, which is what we all want. Nobody wants to watch long dink rallies except for you and that one guy from Daytona. I think you guys were
We
loving
had fun.
that.
We
Nobody
had
else
a lot of
was.
fun. Kyle Kazuda and Craig Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, Colin and Kyle might have well just had a tea party. Like, you guys were just going at it.
It was a little drill sesh.
I think that the spin really allows for speed ups. And I do think that we want a way of having those drawn out firefights.
Yeah,
right?
It's two variables to mess with, right? Spin versus power. What if you reduce power but increase spin? Then you can speed up more
Without as much repercussion.
right? And then the counters are worse. That might be a better play. Maybe the spin needs to go up and the power needs to come down. Or you could do the reverse way. I don't think you want to be playing with super slick, really powerful things. So I tend more towards the other one. But there's some balance of those two variables for sure.
Yeah. I like to see the experimentation.
All right. So, what's your take on the whole balancing spin and power and the direction in which paddles and paddle testing and standards are moving right now?
Yeah, I think, it's probably, the paddles are probably a little too hot right now, and finding a comfortable spot for that to land, I think is the key. I like shot making. That's been my game since I started. I'm a little 5'8" guy that's 57 years old. So my play has got to be the chess, not checkers part of it, and placing the ball and spinning the ball. And I think that's sort of the way the sport got started, with the idea of the dads and the kitchen itself was trying to equalize things. That being said, the firefights are what makes our sport special. So I think what a lot of fans don't realize is it's the counters that are the bigger problem than the speed ups often, and finding a way to balance that with a deflection of the paddle that can still have multiple ones of those go back and forth. I mean, no one loves to scream, "The floor is lava," more than me, of course. But I want more of that. I think that's what will draw people into our sport. When someone sees one of those rallies, either watching it live or sees a social media clip, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest sport. I want to play it. I want to get involved in it more. And I think whatever we can do to encourage that there's more of that, I'm all for it.
By the way, I am participating in the Dave Fleming drinking game. I'm just drinking water. And so if you want to play along with us, the floor is lava is just one sip. And we can finish your drink if he says, what's the most common one? Shank you very much. If we get that one, that's a finish your drink. But we'll get into the rules more of that later.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, I think when was that? That was probably towards the end of last year, beginning of this year when we recorded.
Yeah, you're
that.
rocking the Chicago slice gear there.
Yeah, it was in between. It was in between the end of 2023 season and prior to being drafted in 2024, sometime in that period. So, it seems like that's the objective. I think it's been pretty unanimous what you said. Like, we're probably a little bit too powerful. We want to incentivize the speed ups. The logistics of making that happen is difficult, right? Proving more and more so every single day. I don't know. I think, you have your finger on the pulse. You talk to pros, you talk to management, you talk to testing, you talk also to like production and broadcasting. And so you understand all of the different basically stakeholders in this issue. It's not just players, it's not just fans, it's not just league, it's not just testing, it's a combination of all of those things, right? And I'm curious, if you think, like, how close you think we are to some form of a solution here.
Yeah, I certainly hope we are. I mean, I think it is a complicated matter, as you mentioned, because of the multiple stakeholders. But I think the game, as it continues to evolve, and that's, I think, the great part of this is, you know, our sport at the level it's at continues to surprise us in so many great ways. And I think what the paddle can do today versus even 2 or 3 years ago is wildly different. So I think everyone was pushing to have these high performance. It's sort of like an F1 car. What's the highest performance paddle I can have? But you have to have governors on that. And I think most people, as you said, Zane, agree that we need to back that off in some way. I am not the technical guy to figure out exactly what that is. I know what I like to call. I know what the fans like to watch because I talk to fans at every event I go to hear what do they like, what do they not like. They're certainly dinking with a purpose is fun, but firefights are what make our sport special. And so we want to make sure we have a lot of those. That's why a lot of people love women's doubles because the firefights last longer and you see more just swinging from the hips and those wild points that the ladies have. And I think the men's counters are so good with the paddle technology that they just end quicker because the ball gets put away so much faster.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep with the hot topics and debates. Both of these have been topics for like over a year, right? So I was watching old clips of this podcast where we're talking about the exact same things. It's just slightly different. It's just the newer version. So I think the weaponizing versus de-weaponizing the serve. You know, you had Anna Lee tweeting out pickleball's biggest rivalry right now is the serve rule. Going into Major League Pickleball Virginia, teams could no longer challenge opponents' serves. We started to get into this whole reserve thing. There's been a lot of back and forth. To be honest, I don't even know what the state of the serve rules are right now. One, can we start there? Like, what's a legal serve, and then how does it differ between MLP and PPA? And then, what's your take as somebody who has to call and explain these things to the audience?
Yeah, I think ideally I'd like to see next year have that be the same between Major League Pickleball and the Carvana PPA Tour, just so and that's from the fans' perspective. I think understanding that, just so you know, obviously, uh, your boy to the right started this with the Zane saw and everything else, and I think getting creative like that is an interesting part of what players are all trying to do. The margins are so thin. What can I do to make my serve better? So what I would like as a broadcaster is just to have it be clear. I'm not in the de-weaponize the serve camp. I'm in the, if it needs to be just sort of where it is. I mean, Jimmy Ignatowicz is hitting serves very heavy. There's many players that are. Ben's going after a serve. Kwong's going after a serve. So I think those things are important to set up the rest of the shot tree in pickleball. I just think when you add subjectivity to what our hardworking referees have to do, that just makes life a little more difficult to them. I personally don't like, I know it's been thrown out there, you got to hit a drop serve and have it go off the bounce. It just doesn't look as good. I know others have put out videos about
I'm on your
what
side
that,
on this one.
yeah,
I'm on your side.
Which
what it
others
can
would those
look
be
like.
that put out videos?
Yes, there are folks that have done that. I just don't think that looks as good as when you serve it out of the air, personally.
Hmm.
Gotcha. I disagree with you
Yeah.
on that. I don't know if I need to go into my position. I don't know if we want to debate that or what. But I think you did nail a point on subjectivity. And even with all these new rules in place, like we're not getting any closer to a objective serve rule, right? We're putting these other things in place that actually are only there's just more subjective rules when cobbled together seem to result in the outcome that we want, which is not enormous serves. This is what it seems like from my perspective. Currently, Major League Pickleball, there are two rules in Major League Pickleball. you have to be serving in a clear upwards motion, and the top part of the paddle has to be below the level of your wrist. Those are the only 2 serve rules. In the PPA, I believe you still have to release the ball from below hip, or at or below hip height. You cannot toss the ball upwards, and you need to be, again, swinging in a clearly upwards motion. So just the toss is the main difference between the 2 serves there. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody pretty much wants to see a joint serve rule that's objective. To me, the only thing that I've really seen out there that is fully objective would be the drop serve, and my argument would be it's done in other professional leagues that are outpacing us in viewership, like Padel. Different sport, of course, but those guys look dope.
They go through the glass.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what we come up with for that one.
One thing. So somebody was asking me this the other day. They were like, "Well, so what?" It was just like rec play. Like, what is a legal serve as it pertains to amateurs? I'm like, I gotta be honest. I don't even know. I'm so focused on these rule changes at the pro level. Could either of you like succinctly explain what is and is not a legal serve for the everyday player?
I mean, you're hitting it from below your waist, and with your, as Zane just showed you, the tip of the paddle below your wrist. I mean, that is, if you want to just sum it up in a simple fashion, that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
I got a different definition for you for your rec play courts. If you hit your serve too hard, it's illegal. If you hit it soft, it's legal at your courts. No, I'm serious. I swear. If you go to your courts and you're bombing serves, it doesn't matter how you hit it. People will call you. If you're just tapping it in, nobody cares. So Dave's is the actual answer, the real answer. But nobody's gonna say a word if you're just tapping it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm, by the way, one of those people who'll just be like, that's illegal. You're just bombing serves.
I bet you also have an illegal serve. I bet you smack it from up high, but when somebody else gets you.
Gotta love a double
Bring it
standard.
from the side, Thomas. There we go.
Yeah.
Until they call you.
Whatever I can do to get an advantage. All right. So I asked you to think of like one behind the scenes story that other people haven't heard, something that we might find interesting. What do you got for me?
I think a couple things. First of all, just what everyone that's part of the sport, like after everyone plays, especially on a Sunday when it's been Championship Sunday, the seeing the participants at the airport, and we go from our pickleball life to our, like, maybe we sell insurance or we have a consulting job, and I think a lot of people don't look at it as the job that it is for players like Zane and the rest of our players. Like, they still got to return their rental car, and they got to, make a flight and get back to their families, and the grind of life that is outside of playing a sport at a really, really high level. So I've had lots of interesting conversations with players. Literally, I'm going back to Dallas, they're going back to Florida or California or wherever they live. And I think just seeing the players outside of the pickleball element is something that I think a lot of the fans not take for granted, but just don't ever see. They see these players on their social media, on the court. Maybe they do see them at the event, and I'm not saying they act different. They're still in I am a pro player mode, whatever that is for that individual. But these are human beings trying to make a living as pro players. And when I've been on the call all day on Sunday, or there's players that have been trying to win a title on Sunday, and then you see 3 bags over their shoulders and trying to sprint to B39. That's a different player than most people have seen. And I think it always recenters me when I have those conversations with everybody about what all of us are trying to do to provide a sport and an entertainment product to move our sport forward, like what it takes from everyone, from the players going through that, and then from the unbelievable work that the PPA operations team goes to switch from Las Vegas to Tennessee to Florida to all that, and to be able to provide that. So I think all of those things that then get us to center in a big match really go unnoticed a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. You know, I am fortunate that like I show up at the tournament and most of the time it's pretty much set up with some exceptions, right? Like New York where they rolled the court away because one of them was messed up. But like there's teams there that are getting there way before us, and even some of the players at this point with we had like 10 tournaments over 10 weeks. Like it's been a wild stretch dating all the way back to Beer City. We've pretty much been playing every single weekend since the end of July. But that's us. We can kind of choose to take some on, take some off. Like there might not be an MLP for my team a couple of those weekends. PPA staff, PPA operations are there every single weekend. And so like seeing Liv and Dylan and Matt Mayfield and Jake Weinbach and all that crew, and there's a million other people that I'm missing, of course, but like those guys are grinding, and so are you. How many do you get to like actually take off, or are you pretty much doing every championship Sunday?
Yeah, a few, but I'm doing almost all of them. And, the way I look at it, Zane, is it's an unbelievable privilege to be able to be one of the voices of the sport that I love, and watching it grow. And, I have to balance that too, much like you did. So I will take some off here and there, but I want to help continue to be part of the message to our fans and our growing fan base, and help tell the stories of players. And I think that's the key for us as we continue to grow the sport going forward.
Yeah. How is like, so maybe this is too personal of a question, but like how's morale at PPA, right? Meaning like I see the players are beat up right now. You see it whether it's Vegas or some of the MLP events. People are mentally checking out of certain events, right? Well, some people it's PPA, some people it's MLP, some people are injured, bodies banged up, right? Like some people are being propelled right now by the adrenaline of this being something new.
Yeah.
And of course, we have an unbelievably opportunity and we're paid very nicely to do all of this. Like, do you think we're doing too much? Is it a balancing act? Or is it just like, hey, look, we are all here working our asses off to make this a viable professional league. And yeah, it's gonna be tough for a couple of years, but like it's kind of make or break for us. What do you think about that?
I think it's somewhere in between the last 2 points you made. I think obviously individuals, throughout my career, I've talked about I can teach technical things. I can teach you how to do certain, either writing a marketing brief or learning how to do specific tasks in your job, but I can't teach drive. So drive, I think, is got to be something that you have internally to be able to want to be a part of what you talked about, Zane. And I think that's what the team here across the board has. It's, we are getting the opportunity to take this sport and put it onto the national, you know, map. And the way you do that is to continue to do it better and better. And I think this week coming up with the World Championships right here in Dallas is a great celebration of our sport, with not just Major League Pickleball playoffs and obviously a slam and 2,000 points and everything that comes with winning that from the player's perspective, but everything around it for our amateur players, because the amateur players are the key to all of this, to embracing fandom of either your team or individuals, and playing the sport and getting to see the level and so forth. And then having all the stuff around it, because I think the one thing that I've noticed quite a bit going from city to city and talking to fans in less established places versus more is once they see it, they love it. So having the concerts and having all of the other activities, glow in the dark pickleball, play with a wooden paddle pickleball coming up at Worlds, those are the things that maybe people are going to, check in on it and then see a great match that you might be a part of, Zane, and go, wow, this is something I really want to continue to be engaged in. I think that's the key for all of this.
Yeah, was all of this stuff there last year? Were there like a bunch of concerts last year? I don't remember this.
There were concerts that it has been, everything I think has been ratcheted up, and that's what I'm excited about.
Mhm.
All of the auxiliary programming, it's like we have our own Coachella here this week coming up in Dallas. If you're a country music fan, you got to love it. We have a Morgan Evans from Australia, which isn't our boy Morgan Evans that we know and love from pickleball. It's the dude's got the same name. He just sings better than our beloved Aussie.
From what we know.
Yeah, I've never heard our Morgan Evans sing.
That's a good point.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, you probably can't say it. Part of the brand. Probably can't admit. Sometimes you get pickleballed out. I would if I were you. You're doing a lot. Even in your downtime, I assume you're watching a ton of pickleball, and you're preparing for what you're going to be doing on the broadcast. My question to you is: do you practice your catchphrases in the mirror? Are there times where Dave Fleming is driving down the highway and he's saying high octane pickleball to himself in a car?
Absolutely not.
That is not true.
That is 100% true. I think what
The reps are live on air.
I see it's recording. It's 100% not true. I think what I found, and when I started to do this particular job, I had choices of what route to go, and I think, in speaking to a lot of people and speaking to broadcasters and other sports, what is the goal here? And the goal is to educate and to entertain. And I did a lot of comedy in my life, in my background, and I was like, I want to bring that to the table. But what made my comedy better was Jerry Seinfeld, for example, is very specific about every single word that he says on stage is worked on to the nth degree, and he is my favorite of all time. I am more spontaneous, so it would not be authentic to me, Thomas, for me to start practicing catchphrases in the mirror. I just want to go in the moment. Now, that being said, there are obviously, cue the drinking game, ones that I use once a weekend, 3 times a weekend, etc. And the fans that I talk to are like, you got to say it. So like if I play rec in a particular city and I just show up at courts, they're like, you got to say, let's play pickleball, dude. So, it's fun. And, I don't ever want to be the show, but I want to be entertaining so that the listen is something that the fans are enjoying and hopefully they're learning at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, in my extensive commentary, which is not very much, I have enjoyed it. It's tough because I don't know what to repeat when I've done it. And right, so you say a few of the same things almost a lot of the times that you're commentating, but probably for a good portion of the audience, it's the first time that they're hearing that, right? For a small portion of the audience that watches everything all the time, they're like, "Oh, here goes Fleming again." But some of them are also like iconic too. So it's an interesting balance in that. And so basically all I'm trying to say there is like I've commentated twice and I was already like conscious of that. And that's not an easy deal, easy thing to manage. But my question here is I had a pretty hot take, I guess, on where commentary should go in pickleball. And my opinion is pickleball is so nuanced, and we do have so many people that are maybe just tuning in and aren't hardcore enough to understand the intricacies of dinking and dinking patterns and all of that stuff. The person that shows up at the concert and then watches pickleball, they don't know exactly everything that is going on. And if you wait until the end of the points to explain a dink that happened that set up a speed up 4 shots later, it's too late. You're not going to remember, they're not going to remember, and you only have like 5 to 10 seconds to talk about it in between points. Whereas, so basically my point is, it seems like we are following very much a tennis model where you talk in between the points about what happened during the point. And it seems like we just can't communicate enough or effectively enough during that period of time. So I'm curious, like, what do you think about that perspective?
I actually agree with that perspective, and I think you'll see some slight tweaks to that with the right matchup. I think the finding the places to put that in, like our sport is probably, other than maybe hockey where the puck is changing possession all the time, and the play-by-play guy is just constantly talking. And then you do get stoppages though, and then you can go back and explain what just happened to your point in hockey, whereas we're just playing. We're playing until the match is over. So like, let's say Ben and Colin are playing J-Dub and Dylan. That's a great example for what you just raised. If that matchup happens again, there's without question, and I've talked to Adam about this as well, Adam Stone, that we're going to jump in there with more of that about why is Ben putting the ball in a particular spot, and why is Dylan's forehand being avoided, because if you put it there, he's going to speed it up and put those in the middle of it. So I think there's a balance there, Zane, but I agree with you because there have been too many for me as an individual to count of that shot 15 seconds ago was unbelievable. We need to be able to point that out. So I think you'll see a slight switch in that over the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay. Well, I personally, I like to hear that. And it is very much matchup dependent. You're not going to get much time to do that in a Kwong and Christian versus Gabe and Hayden match, right? Those are going to be some pretty short points versus a Ben and Colin versus J-Dub and Dylan. So I think that is a good way to be able to satisfy both audiences, both teaching people some of the patterns, and then also like letting people into some of the higher level strategy behind all of the thinking. Because, you know, when I talk to beginners and, you know, just thinking about my own experience with pickleball, when I first saw people dinking, I was like, what the hell is this? This is the stupidest thing ever. Whack the ball at each other, right? And then I guess I'm still kind of in that category. I mean, I still like to watch I like it better when it's sped up. But when I talk to 4-5, 5-0, 4-0 players, they actually like, once you get to a certain level of competence in your own game and understanding of exactly what's going on, they don't mind watching some of these dink rallies. So pointing out interesting changing points in these rallies, I think is good.
Yeah, because it's the idea of how did you earn that? And I think for sports or for, you know, thankfully I've never played a down of football in my life or I would have been destroyed. But I've watched a ton of football, but like the nuance of how a lineman puts, you know, blocks with their hand placement so that the defensive end can't get to the quarterback. I have a general idea, but I like when that's explained to me, or wide receiver patterns and things like that. So I think there is a audience that would like us to explain why you move a dink wide to get that person out of the middle so that then you can go to the left foot of the guy in front of them and look for a ball that you can take out of the air. So we talk chestnut checkers a lot, and that is why I personally love the game, and so many of the players do, because it is continuing, you know, we're all trying to solve it and helping people explain, not to the level of detail of how you contort the paddle to do certain blocks at a very high level, but the setup to get to things is something I'm even going to go back and continue to look at matches that we've called in the past and see, okay, where was some spots that we can put in exactly what you're talking about. So 2025, I think some of what you just mentioned will definitely be satisfied.
Could you envision or see a scenario where you sort of Manningcasts? And so for those who don't know, Eli and Peyton Manning are a couple of incredible quarterbacks. They simultaneously commentate over certain NFL games, and they give very, very intricate explanations, probably for the very intense football audience. They're going to be using very, very specific football terms that if you're just a casual fan, you're probably not going to understand. You're probably not going to know what the hell is going on. I mean, to me, when I'm watching, I would love to not have to listen to you or Mish or Adam explain what a dink is. I understand it, right? Like, and you don't do it too frequently, but there's definitely some catering to the people that don't know what's going on. Like, can you envision a simultaneous stream where you can have high level players that aren't afraid to talk about, the very, very intricate things?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's an idea that I would definitely love to see if we can't try out next year. As you look at, because last night my beloved Steelers were on Monday Night Football, so of course I'm recording both the Manningcast
I think that's on the
and
card,
real
by the way.
game.
That's on the bingo card. Or
Uh-oh.
you
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
hold on.
Yeah,
Let me look.
there we go.
mention of the Steelers.
Thank you. There we go. That listening to how they described some of it, I'm not going to say that when Adam and I are in the booth that we're doing a full Manningcast. I think that's as close as we get, because we will have more of that type of discussion, Zane, between us. I would love to take that up a level to your point. So I think that's something we will. I could foresee us definitely trying that out at some point in 2025, because I think there is definitely an audience that would love to then take what we just talked about up another level and say exactly why the return was hit there to set up this, and you're just talking all over the next 3 points, but you're talking about one that just happened a little bit ago, so that you can learn. Like when the Mannings mention a 9 route, people are like, I have no idea what what is a 9 route. I have no idea what that guy just said, unless you're inside the weeds. So I'd say that's a definite possibility next year.
Interesting. Yeah. If you need a guinea pig, I would love to do it.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So
What if we do it and I'm like the idiot you have to explain it to? Right?
that could be kind of fun too. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I would love to hear.
just ask obvious questions like, why do you hit it there? You can just explain it to me. If you're like me, you might feel your body is slowing down, not bouncing back like it used to. I learned recently that could be attributed to your mitochondria slowing down. And that's where My DUPR comes in, which is a product by Timeline. It's backed by more than 15 years of dedicated scientific research. My DUPR is clinically proven to help clear out the old, worn out mitochondria, the energy centers of your body, to give you the reboot you need from the inside out. Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of My DUPR. Go to timeline.com/thedink, all caps DINK, timeline.com/thedink. And you'll get 10% off your first order, and you can, renew that mitochondria at the powerhouse of the cell. That's from a movie. I don't remember what it is, or maybe a show or something like that. Go get yourself some Timeline. All right, let's change it up a little bit here. We talked a lot about your catchphrases, your voice, your commentating. I want to. We did some work, and we put together some phrases that we thought would be good for you to potentially implement on your next broadcast. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to read them live here, test them out, see how you like them, and then we'll kind of gauge whether or not maybe we'll see them on one of the next broadcasts. So I'm going to text you the first one. You got your phone, right?
Oh, okay, hold on.
Oh boy.
So this is thinking here is if they kind of pull off a low percentage shot, right?
Okay.
You might recognize where some of these are derived from.
Okay.
You got to do your announcer voice. I need like full Dave Fleming.
You want full
Yes.
full on. And 60% of the time it works every time.
I like that one. I'm a fan of that one. Did you see yourself implementing that?
Well, let's see where we're at.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep going.
This is just before we get it. This is what I get more than anything from, like, Dave, we say this at our rec court. Dave, we say you need to do it. So I love getting wow. I don't know. Okay.
This is like Jack Sock has a crazy get, right?
Yeah.
The athleticism is on display.
I don't even know if I know how to pronounce this properly.
Severus.
Okay, there we go. He can move faster than Severus Snape confronted with shampoo.
Get the camera on Zane. Look at his
God damn
reaction.
it.
All right, this
Ay.
is one my team put together. I thought this was a pretty good one. So this is if after a good put away.
Okay. Okay. And he buried that ball like it was going to testify against him.
I like that one. I like that one.
I mean, being a fan of Breaking Bad, there's something to be said for that right there.
Okay, so there's some where you kind of have a go-to phrase for a specific player, right? Like Newmans are out there.
Yeah.
You kind of do the "Hello Newman" thing.
Yeah.
This is our idea for if what's his name?
Max Manthau.
Max Manthau pulls off a really good play, right?
Okay. Oh God. Okay, just warning the viewer that I was just texted 2 paragraphs. All right, wow. I am willing to play along. So here we go. My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions, and loyal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next, for I am purple Jesus.
All right, which one of your team watched Gladiator this weekend?
Oh man, that was very well done. Thank you for playing along. I wasn't sure if you would just kind of throw in the towel once I sent over the big paragraph there, but everybody likes Gladiator. Plus, don't you use the "Are you not entertained?" I feel like you've.
Oh yeah, well, I use that because that's Ben's favorite movie. So
I'm gonna send him this clip.
If he does something, I'll throw that out. And, that's the connection to people or things that they like that I like to do. And I saw a lot there, but that was fun.
Yeah, see if you can memorize that one for the next.
Yeah.
The next
I
broadcast.
feel like the easy ones, like he's playing like a guy with like a mongoose on amphetamines. That's a low-hanging fruit tennis one. You could just rip that right off from tennis.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the metaphors and all that, and like a lot of the stuff, I have no idea why I said it the first time. That's why I truly do not stare into the window or into the mirror and say these things. It just doesn't happen. I think it's more authentic when I just blurt out something that comes to mind. And that's why I love the signs in the crowd. I love when something a little different happens, because you get fodder, and from a comedy standpoint, you want something to play with, and that's the stuff I love.
Right. So like a lot of it is essentially improv moments where
Yes.
after they happen, you're like, I can do that again. Like we're going to recycle that one. And then it just
Yes.
builds up over time. Now you have this huge catalog of go-tos.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. All right. We can, Zane, why don't you, I know you want to talk about MLP. We have like some pretty interesting statistics that I don't think people have talked about that we could potentially walk through. And then there's a handful of other things. But Zane, why don't you quarterback? Which direction you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, we can chat through MLP. We had the last regular season event of the year, and we had the playoffs. Basically, well, we have the playoffs now set.
Yep.
So for those who don't know, the entire year we have had a regular season, and the top 6 teams in both divisions end up. What are you laughing at over there?
I'm thinking about how you read that whole thing for Gladiator. That is going to be.
We're still on that. We're still on that.
It's going to be so funny if we just post that on like Instagram with no
You
context.
should post it completely out of context.
Dave has lost his mind.
Yeah.
And here's proof.
I think you have to post without context.
Yeah.
Collaborate with Max Manthau.
Yeah.
100%.
And by the way, yeah, we got to give you a tap on the back there. I mean, you improvised the end of that with the purple Jesus. I mean, right on the spot, you were improvising. That was good stuff. Anyway,
Not in the notes here, folks. No purple Jesus in what was sent to me.
Yeah, not on the teleprompter. Yeah, so we have the playoff set, 6 teams in both divisions. In the and there were a couple teams that were still vying for spots. I believe. Well, so Dave, you are the GM of the Carolina Pickleball Club, and I think you guys still had like the a 2, 3, 4% chance possibly at qualifying this time around. Very, very slim. Unfortunate to see the year come to an end, but we do have the top 6 teams there. When did you become the GM of the Carolina Pickleball Club?
I mean, I basically have been since its inception when it was Seattle.
Mhm.
So since day one, basically.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I just remember when it was it. So you were behind the scenes prior to that, though, weren't you? Or were you actually with? I thought there was some sort of press release with you and Carolina in particular, or were you on site with them officially as the Seattle Pioneers last year?
Oh yeah, always.
Okay.
So yeah, no change since Seattle, and then last year I actually did 2 teams. I did Seattle and Dallas because they were in 2 separate divisions, so there was no crossover that would. I want everything to be on the up and up that I do, and there was a chance to help both Dallas and Seattle, so that's what I did last year.
Mm-hmm. So going into this year, we had the Dutch auction, and we had basically a bid for who selects the number 1 spot. You guys bid the most. You took Ben for whatever it was. It was 700, 670. No, what, 750 something thousand like that. Anyway, he was the most. He was the number 1 pick, but you guys didn't spend any more money filling out the rest of your roster. And I think a lot of people want to know, like, how come Ben didn't get the best supporting cast, or at least spending a full amount on the rest of the roster?
I mean, I think the thought was we felt like we had an opportunity with the players that we took. Putting him with Colin, you feel like you're getting a win every time at men's with their background. We started with the 2 veterans, which we thought could work with Andrea and Jesse, and unfortunately that didn't come to fruition. So I think it was more that opportunity and what happened, because I would say your team's a good example, and some others got a lot of value at the bottom of the draft by going with some things. Then you hope that you find that chemistry and that it gels, and some of that worked, some didn't, and if it doesn't, you gotta tweak it and get ready for 2025.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interestingly, there were only 3 teams that didn't spend the full amount of money. Even so the teams were allowed $500,000 of basically monopoly money, and they could reach into their pockets for another $500,000 to sign players. And 9 of the 12 teams did that and basically spent at or almost all of their allowed dollars. And the 3 teams that didn't actually ended up last in the standings, the last 3. And it's interesting because prior to this year, Ben had a great record with Major League Pickleball. So I think I don't know what I'm expecting from you, but I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the allegations that Ben and Colin aren't giving a full effort. The allegations that they're having losses in Major League Pickleball that are very, very uncharacteristic, and they're not having at PPA. And you're steering that ship. I don't know if you want to comment, not want to comment, but I've got to ask you, like, how do you feel about those allegations?
I mean, I don't want to comment on that specific question. I mean, my big thing is I want to win every match that we can for Carolina, and this year that didn't happen, and I'm hoping that in 2025 it does.
Mm-hmm. Do you we're going into an off-season period where you're going to be allowed to make roster changes. We don't exactly know exactly the format of that, but you're gonna have to drop one of your players. Are there other people that you have your eyes on, or is this gonna just remain to be seen? Like, what's your plan for getting Carolina to that winning position that you want?
Well, I think you saw that we started to tweak the roster with a couple of trades for the ladies. We brought in Brooke Buckner and Caitlin Christian towards the end of the year. We had a abysmal record in Dream Breakers, and that suddenly you have two of the top 5 ladies in singles. So I think the opportunity to look at, is that the right formulation for this team or not? And then obviously, I think every general manager is going to be looking at, how does the rules and what do teams do with tweaking their roster? Because as you mentioned, Zane, everybody has to cut a player. Who is going to be available in that pool, and does that make your team better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know exactly how the challenger teams are going to be able to work into this, what type of budget they're going to be basically allowed. There are a lot of questions that are going to be that need to be answered before we can even really make super educated decisions on it. We just know at least one player from every team needs to be dropped. That's you. As of right now, you can retain 3 players with some caveats to that, but yeah, there's still a lot of things to be determined for next year. But yeah, and there are plenty of players towards the end of the year that are burnt out or whatever, or you might be eliminated from the playoffs and you're not giving your 200%. I think that Ben and Colin were the ones with the most, talk, right? It's certainly not exclusive to them, but they're the ones with the highest profile. And obviously Colin had his letter that was released. And so that's what sort of brought all of this to the forefront. But it's got to be kind of tough to how do you coach the number 1 team in the world?
I mean, let's be honest with, Ben and Colin have an algorithm that everyone knows about and that I talk about. So
Wait, hold on. Let's assume people don't know about it. Me. Like, actually explain, like, what truly do you mean by that? Is there truly something they're doing that's different, or are you just saying these guys are
I just think
cerebral, they're very smart players?
They're 2 of the smartest players that we have in our sport, without question.
Yeah.
And so for me to tell them how to play against Zane is just not a smart role for me. My role is to, in that particular match, to, if I see something, I'll mention it, but it's more positive energy, getting the ladies ready to play mixed or their match coming up and so forth. But if anyone thinks I'm coaching up Ben on the sidelines there, that is not my role, and I'm not trying to do that. And I want to be very clear on that.
As a coach, and like, this sport is so strange because it does feel so new. The players who are playing now are better than anybody who's ever played. In this example specifically, kind of tough to teach the 2 guys who are debatably the best at strategy and the game itself. But when you see a Colin and Ben, in some instances, quit on a game, potentially a match, as a coach, do you not feel obligated to say, what the hell are you guys doing, and whip them into shape? If you saw that in the NBA, right, that guy gets benched. That guy, they have a tough conversation. They're held accountable. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think the players need to give what they can for that particular day. Everyone knows what the expectation I have is. I want to win every match, and I hope that we do that. And I show up and provide, hopefully, that position, and I hope they follow suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it can't be an easy circumstance, but Yeah, it's interesting. I think pickleball is just progressing. It's so unique in many ways. That's definitely one of the most interesting. Anything else you want to talk about MLP?
What are your predictions for the playoffs? We have the Flash selected the Hustlers as their quarterfinal opponent, meaning that DC then plays the Texas Ranchers. Jersey and St. Louis have buys. So yeah, any predict at least, and that's premier level. Any predictions for quarterfinal weekend?
Yeah, I just did the MLP preview show that'll be out in the next day or so here. I think what's interesting about the DC match is Deckel and James, who are terrific players, just haven't played well together for whatever reason, and they're terrific in mix. So if they get going, they're going to be a handful. I mean, this is a team that obviously you're sitting there in first place with the Clowns, and that's just a scary team if they get through because of the potential of what they can do. Dallas, on the other hand, with their matchup with the Hustlers, actually lost the last time that they played them. So they're choosing a team that they lost to, and you know, through the rules, just so everybody knows, the team that finished third got to pick the fifth or sixth place team, and they chose the Hustlers. There's a lot of health issues in these quarterfinals and Premier as well. I just want to see who steps up with now that the playoffs are on the line, and I think DC of that group is the one that I want to keep an eye on. And then you have the Flick Wizard, J.W. Johnson, who had the 12 put on his back as he was the 12th pick, which was a steal in the aforementioned draft that we talked about. And he has a little something to prove, and is obviously an awesome player. And I think he single-handedly could help his team go a long way in this.
Yeah, we've also had about less than half the season of a fully put together Ranchers roster too, between Tina, Etta, Kwong, and Christian. I mean, with all of them healthy, that's a very, very dangerous team. So DC is going to need to find that form to even get past the Ranchers in that quarterfinal.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So
I mean, you love the Tina and Etta team if they're healthy. You know, that's to win women's, especially if it goes out first, is just such a huge uplifting thing for a team. So that'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. In Challenger, you've got Miami going against Frisco, who had the miracle run. I actually was wearing, it's too hot, but I was wearing my Frisco Pandas sweatshirt because the Clean Cause / Frisco Pandas curse has officially been lifted. Yes. I think this is their very first playoff in the entire time, and they're one of the OG teams. Team Clean was all the way back in 2021, and they switched ownership groups to Frisco Pandas. Started off pretty poorly with me. We did not win a match in that one in the first half of 2023, but I think the curse is lifted, and they snuck into the playoffs. They beat Miami 3-1 in their final match, which is exactly what they needed to do to secure the number 6 spot. And Miami had a ton to play for in that match as well, because if they did well enough, they would have surpassed SoCal Hard Eights and been a top 2 seed. So they just...
And not just that, Zane, they would have earned promotion to Premier too. So all of that was on the line, and they didn't get it done. And then you know what they said? We want a rematch, because they could have chosen to play the Las Vegas Night Owls. So the fact that they said, we want another shot at this for the same prize at the end of being promoted and making it into the semifinals. So we'll see if a second chance is the charm for them.
Yeah. Who do you have winning that Challenger League, just in general?
You know, the interesting part of the teams that got the seeds, obviously betting against Irina Terashenko and MLP is just not a smart idea. And the Hard Eights got a lot of breaks as they didn't play in Miami, and they watched this Miami team not get it done. So they've got the veterans, the aforementioned Decimus Meridius with Purple Jesus. So let's see if the Hard Eights can't can't grab a title over there.
All right, so that's your challenger team is the Hard Eights.
I think they have that right blend. I think everyone on that team except maybe Yana or two of that. Eric won last year. Arena's won 57 times, I believe. So they got that. I think that will help them in close matches. And the fact that it's so razor thin, when you look at the percentage of points won in Challenger, it's like 50.7, 50.6, 50.5, that it's really close. So I think having a couple of vets out there to pull through when it's 23-22 will help them.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is Challenger margins are so much thinner than Premier.
Yeah.
In Challenger, you have the Chicago Slice, who averaged 1.91 points per match, and won 50.57% of points. So they're at 50.6. The lowest scoring was California Black Bears at 49%. So that's only a 1.5% difference between first and last. And in Premier, you have it's a lot wider. You have us. We had 53.16% of points won versus Utah, who had 46.78. I would have thought it would actually, going into the season, I would have thought it would have been flipped. I would have thought that Premier would be very, very even and Challenger might be more spaced out, but we actually got the opposite. Yeah, it's that SoCal team is designed pretty well, and they've been pretty successful in Dream Breakers as well. Miami being the most successful Dream Breaker team. I think we're looking at a bunch of Dream Breakers in this playoff.
Yeah, and the fact that it's best 2 out of 3 is very fun too for the first time. So meaning that the teams will play each other, then play again, and if it's 1-1, they'll play a third. So that's an exciting nuance to this year as well.
Yeah, my only disappointment is that this isn't drawn out a little bit more, right? You know, we had to fill it in to the last part of the year, and there aren't too many open dates as we had discussed with tournament after tournament after tournament. We have I wish at least each of the rounds could have been their own weekend, right? Quarterfinal round is happening this week. Semifinal round and final round are happening over the same weekend in Orlando at the second half of November. And so these matches are happening 3 times in a day, which is you're playing you could potentially be playing 3 matches against the same exact team on the same day, which is kind of wild to me. I would have loved to have seen the playoffs drawn out a little bit more, and I have to imagine that's how it's going to happen next year. Just we ran into not enough time at the end of the year, but it'll be electric either way.
Indeed, can't wait. Look forward to calling it starting on Friday.
All right, Dave, how much time do you have left?
As much as you need.
All right, I like that.
Joe Rogan experience. We got another 2 hours.
Yeah. What about you, Zane?
Me? I'm good.
All right, if we could go to like maybe 2:30 then.
2:30, I think.
Okay, let's see. I wanted to like jump into some newer stats, newer numbers that we've been looking at that I think are pretty interesting. One is, and first let me just like ask you a question, and then we'll jump into some data around it. But Dave, what's your opinion on starting strong in any individual game? You know, getting that first point, getting those first 2 points, and kind of jumping ahead early, and what impact that has on the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I've been asking for a bunch of stats that look at just when you win the toss, and I know you guys have put out a bunch of stuff as well from that standpoint. Just the idea of should I serve or receive. Some of it is actually statistically relevant, and some of it is the mental side of this, which even like, let's say you choose to serve and you win the first point. Even if you then turn the ball over and give up 2 and you get it back and serving 1-2, some players just love getting that first point and choose to serve. I know there's a lot of amateurs that fall in that camp. There's a lot of people that think, well, I don't think with the nerves, especially if we're talking a tournament, the nerves and pressure of making a third right out the gate, I don't think they can make it. So I'd much rather receive. I think you see that a lot. I think what's changing in singles is the servers are doing better than you think now with the big serves, passing shots, etc. So I think that comes down to individual approach, but I know there's a lot of stats, and please enlighten me as to what you have at your fingertips there.
Yeah, so we have, it's a small sample size. It's just from Vegas. So 82 games played in Vegas.
Vegas, what? MLP or PPA?
PPA. That's your quote, by the way. So let me get to the right slide here. So this is the first one, and obviously, again, it's a small sample size, but the first team to 9 points. I don't think this one's as surprising, but we're going to get to different thresholds here. But if you get to 9 points, pretty much a done deal if you get there first. Probably not that surprising, right?
And this is Carvana PPA Tour,
Yes.
Vegas. Got it.
Yep. Then we move on to 6 points. Percentages are still pretty high. First team to 6 points wins close to 90% of the time across all categories. Then we get to the first to 4 points, and those percentages are still pretty dang high. I would like to see this across a larger sample size, but I do think it's interesting, and it really makes the case that if you're a slow starter, you're at pretty significant disadvantage. But does this reflect what you would have expected?
No, and I definitely want to see more because we see comebacks a lot. So, and I feel like I see comebacks more than 7% of the time in women, certainly to 4 on that one. But there are definitely runs. Now the problem with that, and I think this probably reflects that, and what I'd love to see, like keep drilling down here, is did you give up the lead but then get it back because they went on a run for 6, but then your run of 6 then still keeps you with the advantage that you earned by having the hot start. So I think the big opportunity, and I think you'll see a lot of this coming next year as well, is just adding relevant stats to the broadcast so people can learn and see if the things that they start to familiarize themselves with, like even if that example holds up over 500 matches, then like, wow, what this team is doing right now is really unique because it doesn't happen very often, and I think that just pulls the fans in even more.
Yeah. I was surprised by how high it was for going to 4 points.
Yeah.
But whoever made this study, I would love to see like how far apart the dupers were, right? Like, so if one team is 10 duper and the other team is 0 duper, like you would expect that team to get to 4 and then to finish it out. I would love to see this done controlled for close duper ratings, right? Because you would expect a higher duper rated team to get to 4 first and then finish it out. And so 4 might be an irrelevant number. I would love to see it done with duper ratings that were within some plus or minus amount, right? So you can say that if they're completely even teams, which if this is just pulling from Vegas, there are clearly better teams and clearly worse teams, right? You're going to have...
Was that pro? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Zane. Was that pro or was that just...
Pro.
Okay, so that should move that.
It's close enough,
gap,
right?
yeah,
But you still
right.
have, you're still... Anybody who Annalee and Catherine are playing, unless it's basically Rachel and Anna, is going to be... It's kind of blowouts for them, right?
Yeah.
All right,
No, for sure. I think your point is a good one there. I think if you could add that likelihood to win component to that somehow would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked a little bit about various pickleball clubs, how they can range, and kind of the market opportunity there, which I think is quite obvious, especially to us in pickleball. So if you've ever thought about investing in pickleball facility, the Pickleball Club is looking for accredited investors. So they're developing a premier membership-based private indoor pickleball facility chain in the United States, and they opened their first one in Sarasota, Florida in May 2023, and they have 6 more in development across Florida. Florida, obviously a really hot market for pickleball, but there's an unmet demand for weatherproof indoor pickleball courts. So they want to have many clubs nationwide and really just like ride the wave of this pickleball growth. They're doing a private offering for accredited investors. So you have to be an accredited investor. Revenue streams are memberships, lessons, events, and merchandise sales. So diversified revenue. And obviously there's high potential for return on investment. It's a replicable model. Again, they're working on having their 7th club here in Florida soon and going nationwide. And pickleball facilities are a pretty stable business. So they offer a strong financial return potential in what I think we all agree is a booming market. So to potentially become an investor in the Pickleball Club, you can go to thepickleballclub.us/invest. That's thepickleballclub.us/invest. And, have a personal stake in the growth of pickleball. Okay, we got another one for you. We touched on it a little bit, right? It's like, should you serve first or second? I think we've seen a lot on it. We've published some stuff on it. This is a good resource for diving into the numbers. I think generally the consensus is it's kind of dead even and doesn't really matter, as evidenced by this data. And this is like 10,000 game simulations. And it's slightly different if you go up to 15 points from 11. It's a slight advantage to serve first, but it's still pretty even. But then, kind of going back to our earlier conversation, if you have somebody who's a proficient server, a James Ignatowicz who's hitting that ball hard consistently and not making many errors on it, it starts to become a pretty significant advantage in games to both 11 and 15. And then if you have, each team has one proficient server serves first for team 1, still an advantage and still significant. So once the serve comes into play, once the serve is meaningful, then whoever serves first is going to have a 10% advantage.
Interesting. Yeah, if you can control yourself or whoever that first person is in the mentality of things, right? And making sure that first person is also on the right side. If you're I doubt it would. I'm pretty sure it would crush any advantage if your better server was the one that's normally playing the left and you switch them, right? Because then you would be potentially have to stack to get back to the position that you want. Interesting.
Yeah, and what's the definition of proficient here?
Yeah, there are questions I have on this one. That's a good question as well. I don't
know, but listen, anybody who's bringing up p-values and standard deviations and pulling out their TI 84 plus, I'm just going to believe whatever they say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this as the article goes, it does confirm that there's far more value placed in selecting court. If there's one better side versus worse side, we're looking at a 25% difference in a game to 11 and a 32% difference in a game to 15. And, that is actually something that I've said that I wanted to see changed. We have, in certain conditions, matches that are almost decided by the coin toss. In men's doubles, there are certain matches where it's so windy that only teams from playing against the wind are really able to win. And I would love at least a third game to have some form of switching, like a tennis tiebreaker, where you don't switch halfway through. You don't know what halfway through is. You switch at every certain interval of points to sort of mitigate that side advantage in game 3. And actually, I think this is very interesting data in favor of that argument. If there's a 32% difference in game 3 just because you happen to win the toss, that's huge.
Yeah, if that's true, that's an interesting idea, because certainly in a 2 out of 3, if the conditions are normal, then you go, okay, I'll decide what my preference is, serve or receive. But most of the times the top players are choosing sides so that you are where you want to be for that pivotal end of game 3, if you think this is a 55-45 or 50-50 match. So it's an interesting idea.
All right, I want to do one more. Did you look at the pickle to pickled ratio stuff that we put out?
I did a little bit.
Dave, did you see that?
I saw it, but I do not have great recall of it, sir.
All right, well then we'll pretend like you just didn't see it. I want to just, if you guys were, don't look, stop.
Oh, okay.
Clicking
I'm
around over
looking.
there.
Okay, I'm not looking. I didn't see it.
So in 2024, we're looking at PPA and APP matches and individual games, and we're looking at what is essentially the pickle stat, right? So how many times are you holding your opponent to 0 in a game, right? How many times are you pickling them? On the flip side of that, how many times have you been held to 0 in an individual game? Withdrawals, forfeits, things like that were removed from this data. And then we're combining singles and doubles. I do want to get to some data where we can break it out by singles and doubles, but for the purposes of this, we're looking at singles and doubles together. And I want to get a guess from each of you in 2024 who has the most pickles. So who has, in the greatest number of games, held their opponent to 0 points in that game? Dave, what do you think? Maybe go with, like, what's your top 3, do you think?
Annalise at the top. I'm trying to think of people that... Is Annalise in the top 3?
Yep. No, you nailed it. Number
Okay.
1.
Yeah, because it's amazing, like the power of what, like, she'll walk out there and just, if I can be out here for 10 minutes, I'm in and go for it. Whereas I would be surprised if Ben is in the top 3, just because they warm to the task a lot. And second, who else is just wrecking people? Where's Fed in this?
Ooh, that's a good one.
All right, we're gonna reveal.
Okay.
So Annalie nailed that one. Ben falls just outside of the top 3
Okay.
at number 4. It is a little bit tricky because we do have to consider both singles and doubles, right?
Oh, that's true.
And Ben is the beneficiary of some of Annalise pickles. We're gonna attribute those ones to Annalise.
Mm-hmm. But then you got, like, Rohrbacher, Tina Pisnik playing well. And I just think, like,
So Fed's the second guy on here, though,
that's
if I'm looking at this right.
Yep.
That's interesting.
And then if we look at got pickled, so who's getting pickled? So,
Oh, that's a good one.
but I ran a because I was like, well, if they've played less than, like, 60 games, do we really want to consider them in this? So let's see. It's a very similar list. I would say the only surprising and more, I would say, established players that are in Major League Pickleball are Hunter Johnson, Lauren Stratman, and then Jeannie Bouchard.
Oh yeah, okay.
Um,
I can barely see this over there.
and then I
we
want to
got
go to
Johnny. We got Johnny Pickleball. Hey, you can go talk to him in the office.
Johnny's not here anymore.
Oh no,
No.
not in the office or not with the PPA.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Seems tough because I bet you Annalie gets a decent amount. I mean, at least a third of her pickles in singles. I would guess, and I think it's just so hard to pickle a guy in singles right now because
One missed return.
Yeah, one missed return. I mean, all the guys are the guys generally are serving much bigger than the women, and then also the passes are bigger, right? So yeah, one missed return
Or one
and then one
forehand.
big serve. Just
Yeah.
it's so brutal to pickle somebody in singles these days.
So I ran. What is the number of pickles to games played? Right. So what's your
Ooh.
pickle percentage?
10?
And Annalie is at
That's
10%.
wild.
Yes.
What is this? 2024 or
Yes, this is 2024.
that's
And Megan Dazan, very surprisingly, is up there as well
so that yeah.
at
That's
7, almost 8. Then we got Catherine.
My last pickle was to Megan Dazan. Travis likes to take it. Travis likes to pretend like it was him, and it was, partially him. It was mostly Megan Dazan. He loves to talk about that pickle, and I love to talk about the fact that he's like last in Challenger League. So it's
here we
great.
go.
So one of the most interesting things to me was that it took until number 19 to get a male in there, which was Ben.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what we just talked about was kind of right.
I think that just screams to the gap from the top players, the women. We're getting more women in that are raising the level of the other ladies, but there's so many good guys now that when you get to the round of 32 for guys, you got to play. I mean, Zane, that. I mean, you don't just get to show up and you're in the round of 16 or the quarters like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. There's great players, and that's just going to continue. And I think the depth of the women's field is certainly better than it was a year ago. But when you're playing Annalie in the round of 32, you're probably not a real established player quite yet.
I mean, kudos to the people who can just also play and not take any points off and just step on their throat like that.
Exactly.
I mean, that takes mental energy as well to just go out there and not lower your level to the player that you're playing against. But yeah, I mean, like we've talked about this before, the days are more and more brutal, even though we play less and less matches. You and I remember a few years ago starting PPA and APP that we would play an entire draw and then have a back draw where the person who came through the back draw could play you for the gold that day. Now we have single elimination and championship Sunday, and it's more physically exhausting than ever before, just because the quality of these games are so much better. I mean, in singles, I would play 2 rounds before I had anybody who was serious previously, and that would happen in doubles as well. And that just isn't the case anymore. And so it's tougher and tougher. And I think that these progressive draws, while I don't really like being there that early, I think that they're the key for the ongoing success of this. Being able to space these matches out and only play 3 matches per day versus whatever you might have to, like 4 or 5 and other draws. It's important.
Yeah, no doubt. And just selfishly, from wildly agreeing with you on that, is I if it's not progressive, have to prepare for the entire field, whereas the night before on a progressive draw, I know the exact matches I have, so I can go deeper within them. And I can also answer the question, hey, do you know what time Zane plays? Yes, I do. Zane plays at this time on this court. So for the fans, it's better as well. And I think as everyone learns what's the right balance of those, a lot of people are learning from that. Certainly, as you mentioned, pros and cons both ways there. But with Worlds coming up, it'll be nice to be able to tell people exactly when their favorite player plays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna do Guess My DUPR. Okay, Dave, you're familiar with Timeline, the official longevity partner of the PPA, correct?
Absolutely.
Cool. This segment, Guess My DUPR, everybody's familiar, sponsored by Timeline. Frank, why don't you play that first video and we'll go ahead and guess the DUPR of some of these players here.
Hey. Okay. Oh, I didn't see that.
Green shirt.
I didn't see it either.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
All right, I like the backhand dink.
Yeah.
She should have hit that ATP.
Get
So this is
another crack at this guy. He
Yeah.
always wears the same shirt. Okay.
4.0 outfit selection.
Yeah.
That's a nice shirt.
Oh, I like that back, and I like the cash.
the
Get
lead.
out of
Little
the way.
dodge. That looks like
Four,
Brandon Lane. You know Brandon Lane?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Surfer. He looks like Brandon Lane. That's his player comp.
I'll go like 4 or
6,
5. I'm going neutral.
4, 6, maybe a little more. I like the because to finish that backhand the way he did, and then he was ready for the next one and just casually got out of the way. I kind of like that.
He's smooth. I got to go at least 5.0. I'm going to go
are you?
5.2, but I'm
Oh, wow.
always wrong. I'm actually the worst
Yeah,
person at guess my DUPR.
Okay.
That's very generous.
Okay.
All right, let's see it, Frank.
God, I fucking hate this game.
Yes, I love this game. I love this game.
All right, next one.
Noah Roman. Okay. Good luck, bro.
Noah, you're underrated.
Oh dear, I'm gonna get car sick.
The guy in the white, right?
No,
On the far
the
side?
one
No.
who just hit the backhand dink. Oh, he's starting over.
Oh, now you're gonna make me car sick again. Okay.
Okay, I see what it is now.
Cameraman, 2.5.
Yes.
He wanted that poach.
Take it then, bro.
He's
Shit or get off the pot.
He's hungry. All right. He's like he's an athlete. He's got some flicks and stuff, but I'll go. He's somewhere just under a 5, I would say. He's probably around a 4.8.
I'm gonna put him in the same range as my boy Green Shirt Noah. But I think Green Shirt Noah beats this guy though.
Yeah, I think green shirt dude is better. This guy is trying to take over a 4.0 game. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
putting him at 4.25.
Yeah, I see myself in him.
I think he's a little I like a little lower than 4 or 5 just based on the game he showed up in here.
All right. 4.999.
No.
Oh my god.
No
First
way.
off, sorry,
Man,
Varun,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
Apologies.
How upset is this guy? He's not a 5.0.
That's
Four
tragic.
Yeah.
4.999. Got to work
To
on
the
that, dude.
third
Dude,
decimal.
Yeah. We got to go.
Now, do we? I'd like a little more because we didn't see a lot of contact. I mean, he hit like 4 shots in the video, maybe 3.
Yeah, I judge it too based on who the person's playing with, right?
Yes.
Like, this
Right,
guy's
right.
tuning up the 4.0s. Your other buddies are 4.0s, Varun.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as we get better and better players, Princeton, New Jersey 5.0 could be a little different than. With all due respect, I'm a Northeasterner, so I get it, but that can look different place to place too
Yeah,
a little bit.
Sam-
Still, I know we even that out, but
Come down to Austin, Varun.
yes, yeah. Play
Wait.
the good 4.5s in Austin and see where you stand.
Where was the last dude from? He was in Florida, wasn't
He's
he?
Western Florida.
Oh, okay. There
Yeah,
we go.
see, we're on to something here. Noah. I'll take Noah over Varun all day long. I don't
Same
care.
here. Let's put this match together.
Yes. Can we please?
That would actually be pretty entertaining. DUPR should do that.
Yeah. Take this conversation to the court.
Yeah, agreed.
I like that we're signing these guys up for something. They just want to play guest video.
Hey, they
had
submitted the
no
videos,
idea.
dude.
Well, let's get Varun some followers here too. Come on now.
He's got 7. That's pretty good. on the DUPR app.
On the
I don't know what
DUPR?
how do you
I don't know.
I probably have 0. I have no idea.
well wait,
Probably have some.
Can
I
we-
have more.
how do you look
I hope
something
I
up?
have
I
more
wonder how many
followers.
followers I have.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, some person will just put in a match saying that they beat me and like Ben Johns. I'll get that. I'm sure
Oh,
Ben
yeah,
gets
yeah,
it like
yeah,
a million
right,
times
right.
more than
to
I do.
confirm it.
Yeah, and I don't. But
That's funny. You should out the next person to do that. I bet Ben does get that a ton. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, how do I get my DUPR up for this tournament? Let me just beat Ben Johns. And they think they can just get around it. I like that. Okay, Frank, next one. She's better than he is. Oh,
Oh,
the lefty.
Okay. Oh dear.
oh,
Whoa, this is a wild
Everywhere.
Who
point.
is this?
Draft her.
Oh my goodness.
Draft her. I'm going to have to get a hold of her agent.
Lefty with like not desperation there.
Whatever she is with that athleticism, the being able to go lefty with a little bit of practice, she's getting drafted.
And
Yeah,
that's
for real.
young. I love a nice young court of good players right there too.
Yeah, she's just very athletic.
Has she had a chance to see with the DUPR? I wonder if she's played enough people to have a
Right.
legitimate number.
She'll be a low 4, but I'm saying her ceiling is like she could
Yes.
be high 5, near 6.
I'm so lost in this game. I'll just go 4. So
I'm gonna
lost.
go 4-2-5 because the lefty was so southpaw beauty right there.
All right, what do we got, Frank? 5-1. All right, good. Good for
Wow.
her. Good for her.
Oh wait, I have heard of Mary. I didn't realize that was her. Okay.
Oh, she's 15. Wow.
Mary, I'm sorry.
She's
That was
gonna be-
more of a statement about the game than it was about you. Your point was incredible. I'm just really,
Yes.
really bad at this game. And if I gave you a 5.2, your DUPR probably would have been like 3.5 based on my history. So keep doing you.
15.
Yeah,
So
that's
She's like
somebody
hot.
with some potential right there.
she's like a young high schooler, right? So like
Yeah,
not even in
sophomore
college yet?
year.
She might be one of those first people to get like a true pickleball scholarship.
Yeah, Drury University. You see that? You see
Yeah.
Jared Smith on our
I
pod?
know our
He's got
boy Jared out there.
scholarships
Let's go.
for pickle. That's pretty sweet.
No, I love how many Stanford, Penn State, all these big campuses are putting rows of courts in. It's awesome.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild. Cool. All right. That's all we got. Dave, thanks for staying on with us. Hour and 41 minutes. Trooper.
My pleasure, boys. Want to spread the gospel of pickle everywhere, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All right. See you at Worlds.
All right, see you, boys.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, daughter had gonna yagi.